afternoon and good evening for those of us who will be connecting with one another um, during this moment that we give continuation to this beautiful passage of the Gospel of Matthew, the parable of the workers in the vineyard. This is actually a parable that is found as in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. And this is a continuation of the work that we have proposed to ourselves to go through Christ's teachings and to apply them in our lives, right? To connect with the Creator in a different way and to hopefully change our perception with the enlightenment of Spiritism that we have, to understand these parables and to hopefully not erase everything that we have learned in the past, because it's also important, but to look at it with a different lenses, look at it with a different heart, right? It's always important for us to acknowledge, and we will acknowledge this later on, that everything that we have learned, everything that we have done, and perhaps in some cases, everything that we have left undone have brought us here to where we are right now, right? So we got to be thankful for the past, but also with the perspective that, you know, we can change, right? We can learn more. We can expand on this. And I'm quite sure that if we were to go back to this Christ teaching series that we have put together, I would say even a couple of years from now, right? We will see different things. We will learn different things. We will emphasize things that perhaps was not well emphasized at the time. So there's much to learn from this. And this is not something that it's Leo saying, but Emmanuel, and you know, there's one of the passages that we will share tonight, that Emmanuel says that in this parable, there's so much to learn. And there is. And unfortunately, we cannot cover it all, but quite a bit. But the parable of the workers in the vineyard. Sometimes this is actually known as the parable of the workers of the last hour as well. Okay? We kept this title, but we'll get the point once we get to the actual parable. And not to bore anybody to death or to make you tired of reading this whole thing, we will reread again to kind of break down into the pieces that I would like to break down. But I would like to read. Perhaps, hopefully, all of us have read it. And we will see this is in the Gospel according to Spiritism as well. But it's something that is important for us to emphasize and for us to connect. So open up your mind, open up your heart, try to put aside what we already know, and let us read it together. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning, who hired workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About 9 in the morning, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. He went out again about noon, and about 3 in the morning, afternoon, and and he did the same thing. About 5 in the afternoon, he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first." The workers who were hired about 5 in the afternoon came and each received a denarius. So when those came who were hired first, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. These who were hired less worked only 1 hour, they said. And you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day. But he answered one of them, I am not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired less the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last. Just so we acknowledge where we got this from, and there are many different versions of this, Bible Gateway, New International Version. And then again, this is found in Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. The variations of the different versions in between the different versions are very little. And it has to do more with how they describe the timing that the landowner went out and hired the workers, right? But we see in this just reading once, I mean, there are many things that can come to our minds, right? We see a landowner here that it is in a way impartial, right? Because he's like, he hires somebody who worked the whole day and is paying the same thing for those who work only part of the day, right? But at the same time, we look at this landowner, and he's a nice person because he wanted to treat the other guys as well, right? And there are so many things that come to mind that it's like, okay, who is landowner? Because Jesus, speaking of this, is saying that it is like the kingdom of heaven, like we have discussed with other parables as well. So he's using this parable, he's using this story to compare it to the kingdom of heaven, right? So I want to dive into it, but before we really dive into it, I want to just bring some highlights of number one, of what we will be utilizing to discuss here, and the couple passages of the Spirit's book. So, as we mentioned, this passage is also on chapter 20 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. And funny enough, this is the only chapter of the Gospel according to Spiritism that Kardec doesn't say anything. It automatically jumps into the Spirit's guidance, the Spirit's teachings, right? So we'll see there, the last shall be the first, the mission of Spiritists, our mission, and the workers of the Lord, right? So there is no mentioning of Kardec. Usually Kardec has a part of the gospel, right, that he then comes and explains or brings some teachings for us based on what he had gathered from the studies of the teachings he had received from the mediums. And then comes the Spirit's teachings. In this chapter, it goes straight into the Spirit's teachings. I don't know what happened there. Don't ask me, because I do not know. But it's interesting to think that it's as wise as he was to put this work together, to think, look, this is enough. This is more than enough. There's nothing that I need to add to this, right? Let us just bring the Spirit's teachings to this beautiful chapter, workers of the last hour. And then we'll have, obviously, we'll make the use of the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, Live in Spring, which is a beautiful chapter that we read also, chapter 122, Let Us Understand One Another, that we read in one of our Gospel at Home. This is also another work there's also another work of Emmanuel, Our Daily Bread, which he takes part of I can't remember now, sorry, part of this parable, and makes use of that little piece of the parable to talk about the vineyard, right? And it is chapter 29 of the book Daily Bread. All these two books are in English. These next two, unfortunately, they're not in English yet. Parables and Teachings of Christ by Kai Bar Schutel, where he also studies this beautiful parable. And the Wisdom of the Parables by Huberto Rodin. I keep saying Humberto, but it's just Huberto Rodin. I got to remember that so I don't, when I say it, I don't say it wrong. But it's also for those of us who speak Portuguese, It's a beautiful book. He's not a spiritist, but the way he this brings these teachings along with the help that we have from Karbar Shurto and obviously the spirit's work is just amazing, right? And then many authors as well that we can go and dive to. So, as I promised, I would like to, before we go into it, and this is something that I have been noticing as we study the parables, when I speak with other individuals as well who have studied, who also dive into these teachings in a let's say more in a different way, in a deeper sense. It goes back to our connection with the Creator. It goes back how we see God, how we connect with God, right? And this is, if anything, it is one of the elements that I would like to invite everyone to do when we're reading these teachings, right? When we're revisiting some of the parables. Because if we have the same idea of God as we have had for ages, guess what? When we read the message, when we read the parable, we will think of an impartial God, right? We will think of a God using this parable here that is paying more to one when I did a lot of hard work, right? We will think of the kingdom of heaven of not being fair. And what do we do with that information? We apply towards one another because we're going to be as impartial as what I consider my Creator, right? There's also an element in terms of my direct relationship between myself and my Creator, right? And God as we see it. When we can put it out there whichever way possible. Creator, God, Mother, Father, whatever that is. The main essence here that we would like to really help one another is our relationship with this Creator, right? So the Spirit's book, first question. By the way, just a plug in, we are studying the Spirit's book again. I can't remember how many times we have done it, but we'll keep doing it until we learn quite a bit more. On every Thursday from 7:30 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. For those who would like to reach out to us, please do so, and we can send you some more information about it. But we would like to remind ourselves of this beautiful question, the first question of the Spirit's book. What is God? God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. I will not discuss these questions right now. I'm going to have two more, okay? But I will not discuss this question. But as we read it again, we'll make some points. And if I fail to do so, some connections, please ask me. Stop me and ask me, okay? That's the first question, and that is the first answer. Let us bring that to our heart. God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. Okay? Second question. What is the purpose of reincarnation? Okay? The purpose is expiation and humankind's progressive improvement. Without reincarnation, how could there be justice? Okay? Should we understand labor, question 675. Should we understand labor to entail only material occupation? No, there is the spirit labors as much as the body. Every useful occupation is labor. So we have the first one, reminding ourselves that God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. That reincarnation, okay, we can take this in any order we want. I just put in order of how they come in the Spirit's book. That reincarnation is expiation and humankind's progress improvement. That's the purpose of it, right? That without reincarnation, there is no justice. Common sense to us. And then the third thing, that every useful occupation is labor. It's not just me getting up in the morning and go to work and get a wage back for my labor. Everything is work. Okay? So, question thus far. Okay. Let's go back now to the parable. Okay? For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. Who is this landowner? God. Who are the workers? Okay, we are. Okay, it's a simple thing that, thank God, right? We can actually figure this out, and it starts by saying, "For the kingdom of God," I'm sorry, "for the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner going out." It's not that we are inserted there, but going out and hiring the workers, right? And there is an agreement. Okay, think of this as an agreement of not that it's us accepting what God is giving us. Because did you have to bargain with God to be here today? Hopefully not. Thank you, John. Maybe not, right? Hopefully not, right? We didn't stop at a moment of our lives and said today and said, okay, you know what? If I go to the center, you're gonna give me this. No, right? But there are certain parts of our lives, certain things that we do in our lives that we do that. Perhaps not directly, but indirectly, right? So when we look at this idea of agreeing to pay, is what God is granting us. Okay? It's what God is granting us. About 9 in the morning, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. God now is not saying a denarius, 2 denarius. Whatever is right. Whatever, it's okay. And they went. And mind you, they were just sitting around and doing nothing. Okay? And it gets a little bit better. He went out again about noon and about 3 in the afternoon and did the same. About 5 in the afternoon, he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" And the answer was, "Because no one has hired us," they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." Mind you, they were there waiting for somebody to go and employ them, right? And who are they again? Who are the workers? Us. So when we take the preliminary observations, right, that we study with Spiritism, can we bargain with this God that is the supreme cause of everything? No. What is this calling of us coming to do the work or going to do the work in the vineyard? Reincarnation. Right? It's the opportunities that we have to come and do the work, right? To go and do something useful, or to perhaps put it to good use the things that we have received, the teachings that we have received, right? Or to give a continuation to it. And we'll get to this point pretty soon, right? And everything that we do consists of this work. It's not necessarily to take care of the grapes, right? It's not necessarily to go and take care of the field, because each of our fields, areas of work, are different. Each one of us are perhaps working some in different types of work, right? But there's one thing that we're doing, and we're doing the same. What? Is the ascension of the self to become a better individual, right? Let's give continuation to it. When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first." Why did he do this? Wouldn't it be fair to look at me again? This is now Leo, this reincarnation still, even studying Spiritism, looking at this and say, why didn't pay the guys who were start working bright early in the morning? They were more tired, perhaps, right? They should be receiving the payment before everybody else. I had an issue in school. This is reminding me, it's so funny because of my last name, right? There was always the attendance, of everybody. So my name was always the last because of my last name, Vieira. And I used to think, it was like, really, why I couldn't have some kind of name, that last name that started with A, so I could be the first one. Because most of the time when we had the attendance type of thing, or at the end of the school, we would be able to be dismissed, right? So I had to sit in there and say, okay, V, all right, yeah, it's coming, right? But and they just disconnect me because obviously being when we were kids, time for us, it's completely different from time now, right? In any case, why didn't the landowner tell the foreman to say, go ahead and pay the guys who got here first? What kind of God is this, right? We can look at this whichever way we want. I know in this, hopefully it is something that the questions is for us to really think and really to uh, dive deeper into the message, but it's really for us to think, who really worked here? Who worked harder? Do we think that perhaps the guy the workers who start working bright and early in the morning did more work than the ones who were there for a couple hours only? What do you guys think? It's a possibility, right? It is a possibility, right? And when we look at this again with the eyes, with the lenses of reincarnation, number one of the things that we got to think about it is that perhaps the lot that we have, well, I should say, everything that we have with us today, we should be considered, and we should also give thanks for those who came before us, for those for those who are here with us right now. If we have Spiritism today, we got to give thanks to Christianity. We got to give thanks to the pagans, right? The work that were done way before us, and perhaps since we're taking reincarnation in consideration here, we're there. What if some of us were the workers of the first hour? We started, we had to stop because we had to go back because the physical body was not up to par anymore, and we came back. And now we're giving continuation, right? There is a possibility. And we think that for some of us who are still here, that start the work a little bit earlier of some of us who are not, who just got here, what do? Here it comes. The workers who were hired about 5 in the afternoon came and each received a denarius. So when those who came were hired first, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. These who were hired last worked only 1 hour, they said, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day. Who are we to question? The opportunity was given to us, perhaps in the past. The opportunity is being given to us now, and we are questioning. And we still do that, right? Why this person has better capabilities or better conditions, right? Why this person is blessed, right, with this or that, and I'm not. Again, us bargaining with the supreme intelligence of the universe. And we've been doing so, and we will do so for quite a bit. I'm not afraid to say it, because sometimes we're like, okay, why is this happening this way? Why is this? God doesn't put a stop to certain things, right? But then we reanalyze the grace of God. We reanalyze the how great is the love of God for humanity, for each one of us. Why does Jesus, as the governor of planet Earth, allow certain things to happen? Right? So the idea is for us to think that not for us to think, but to alert us, to bring it to our senses and think, wait a minute, perhaps the individual who came at the last 3 hours, the last 2 hours, they do more work. They put more work than the ones that are there the whole day, right? Doing a much better job and more effective job than those who are working the whole day. Many of us have partaken the water cooler work, right? The little spot or the coffee breaks that we have to do what? Just sit there and wait for time to go by. Is it 5 o'clock yet? Right? Are we done yet? And we do that, right? And then we have that coworker that is there the whole day, or perhaps a person who works part-time only, and they just get it done. Or that individual, that coworker, that no matter how much is dumped on that person in terms of work, they get it done. Go to Jason. Jason will get this done. Just give it to Jason. Jason will get it done, right? Just using whatever name, right? Sometimes we do that as well, right? Sometimes we get so well at what we do that we develop that capability, right? And they work very effective. They get it done. Whereas some individuals, they're there the whole day, and it's like, are you kidding me? Really? And we, I'm going to include myself on this, we or ourselves, and we expect to be paid the same wage. But he answered one of them, I'm not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my money? Or are you envious because I am generous? The envy that we have towards our brothers and sisters who have a little more, I'm talking about, the pay, right? We're not envying the person. We're envying what God is giving them. We're envying what God is giving to my brother and sister, my neighbor. So where's our relationship with God? Where are we with God? So much so that it is repeated here. So the last will be first and the first will be last. Do we ever complain that we're getting less work than our neighbor? Aloysio works so much. I wish I could work like Aloysio. We never say that. We never hear such a thing, right? But when we take the teachings of the Spirit, that work is every useful activity, guess what? I don't need any money anymore. I don't need any time anymore. I don't need more time anymore. I will work. What I want is work. If work will allow me to do as much as I can towards the purpose of my reincarnation, guess what? We should be asking for more work, right? Not only that, which is something that we're going to talk very soon here, is not the quantity of the work, but the quality of it, right? And this is something that Carbarsciuto talks very wisely about. Not only Carbarsciuto, but also Roberto as well. Carbarsciuto says this is just excerpts of the passage. He says the following: the essential conditions for workers are consistency, disinterestedness, goodwill, and the effort they put into the work they have undertaken. If we take the analogy if we take the parable and use the parable with this paragraph here, we'll see that perhaps the workers of the last hour, they had these essential conditions here, but the other ones, they didn't, right? Materialism, materiality, the greed for gold at the time we find ourselves found more slaves than the vine found more workers. Therefore, the harvest great and the workers are few. That is why we find a lot of people that are, oh, I'm a good worker. I am doing this, I am doing that. But are they really putting their effort into the work, right? Or people who have great knowledge of spiritism, great knowledge of spirituality, but they hide themselves. They could be doing more work, right? In the parable, from what can be seen, the issue is not the quantity of work, but rather the quality, and even more so, the worker's permanence until the end. Those who worked in the vineyard from morning until night did not deserve a higher salary than those who worked a single hour, given the quality of their work. So, does it change our perception then if others are being paid in a different way? Does it change our perception when we are going to work? Not only the work of, the from 8 to 5, whatever we do, but what we see as work. I can be a very busy person, but if I don't put my effort into it, right? If I don't put my goodwill into it, guess what? Nothing's going to change. So what's the purpose, not only of reincarnation, but what is the purpose of our work? When we're doing something at home, when we're cleaning the house, what's the purpose of cleaning the house? Yes, obviously, number one is to make the place clean. We don't want to live in a place that is not clean. But when we connect with the environment, somebody who is coming to our home or perhaps our family members, they will feel at ease. They will feel that is a place that is welcoming, right? We were talking about the other day, the gospel according to in our God at home, on how we should dress ourselves, right? And sometimes we talk about how should we sit, what should we do before, right, or during, the distractions, right? We could have a million God at home, but if we're not putting our good efforts, our goodwill into it, we're not going to learn because of the distraction, because the place is not clean, right? So everything that we do, there will be a connection there. There will be a consequence. So then we start changing that is not just a moment of our lives, since we're talking about the God at home, whatever you want to call it. It's not just a moment that we sit and we study or we read a passage. There is a greater, much greater reason for it. Those spirits that are connected with us, right, they're also receiving that message. And if they're changing, if we're educating ourselves and others, guess what? Tomorrow will be better. So, we use now of certain reminders of that we have taken from the gospel according to Spiritism of the messages that we have mentioned, and just highlight some of them so that we can actually take this to heart and hopefully once more bring emphasis to what is this landowner and us, the workers. This is not Leo saying. This is what is in Spiritism for us to be reminded that in this passage of the last shall be first. Good Spiritists, my dear beloved, you are all workers of the last hour. The one who says, I begun work at daybreak and I will finish only at midnight, be very proud. You all came when you were called, some a little earlier, some a little later. To the incarnation whose shackles you bear, however, for how many centuries has the Lord been calling you to his vineyard, without your wanting to enter it? Now is the time for you to receive your wages. Employ the time you have remained well, and never forget that your existence, no matter how long it may seem to you, is only a fleeting instant in the immensity of time comprising eternity for you. Constantine is a protector spirit in Bordeaux, 1863, and there is more, right? That if you read the whole thing, it is a reminder for not only for of telling us that we are workers of the last hour, but also the consideration on how we have begun the work before, and now we're giving continuation, right? We now are connected with one another in a way that I am giving continuation to the work that we started before. How many of us have studied Spiritism and has a glimpse of, you know what, I have a feeling that I have studied this before, right? Or have a better acceptance of the work of the teachings than other people. Perhaps we have been exposed to spirituality before, more so than other individuals. That's why we're accepted a little bit more, right? In some cases, we look at it and we think, oh my gosh, people don't get this. Well, it's not their time yet. It hasn't been their time. Perhaps they have been called, and just like us, as the Spirit Protector is telling us here, they didn't want to enter this work. They didn't want to enter the vineyard. The time will come. It's not for us to question. It's not for us to badmouth them, as well as for those who have been doing the work, and they have worked tirelessly as well in their own ways, right? It's not for us to look back and say, God has given you this, or I should receive more. Whatever we are, if we're workers of the first hour, if we're workers of the last hours, right? We should not be looking at one another and say, you should receive more or you should receive less. Because there's one thing that we received unanimously, is the calling to work. We all received the work. This reincarnation is a calling, right? To work in the vineyard. The mission of Spiritists, give a continuation to this passage of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Fear not, tongues of fire are upon your heads. Oh, true followers of Spiritism, you are the chosen ones of God. Go and preach the divine word. The time has come in which you must sacrifice your habits, labors, and futile concerns to its propagation. Go forth and proclaim it. Spirits from on high are with you. On high, excuse me. Of course, you will speak to individuals who will not want to listen to the voice of God, for that voice incessantly calls them to selflessness. You will proclaim disinterestedness to the greedy, abstinence to the dissolute, and kindness to domestic tyrants, as well as to the despots. Wasted words, I know, but what does it matter? You must water with your sweat the ground that you must sow, for it will not produce a crop except through repeated efforts of the evangelical hoe and plow. Go forth and proclaim. Why did we bring this passage here? Number one, the Spirit is telling us, Erastus here, that it's not going to be easy. When he talks about the words, the divine word here, is the teachings that we have received. It's talking about reincarnation. It's talking about the continuation of life. Do we have to go and sit people down and say, well, now you will study Spiritism? No. It's through example, right? It's through the hard work. That when we start to, as he's saying here, that when we sacrifice our habits, labors, and futile concerns to the propagation of the word, of the work, guess what? Then we'll see an improvement. It's very easy for us to go and judge what is showing on TV. It's very easy, and I do too, because there are some absurdities that we have to say enough is enough. It's very easy for us to go and look at the absurdities that is on social media right now, and perhaps we wish to put a stop to it. But how do we put a stop to it? By doing differently, by exemplifying a different way, right? Is it easy? No, it's not easy. So when we go and talk to people about at work, for example, and say, if I don't do this now, this is going to come back on us tomorrow. Cause and effect. Simple. And some people, or for us, we don't get it, right? So if I don't do this now, if I don't do this work right now, or let's go back to the cleaning of the house. If I don't clean the house, the consequence is what? It's going to be dirty. We're going to live in a dirty environment, right? That will affect me internally as well. That will affect the others that will live with me. If I drop something on the floor and I don't pick it up, what am I doing? What are my responsibilities with one another, right? We were studying recently the consequences of Spiritism on the book, What is Spiritism by Allan Kardec. And one of the things that he highlights so well as well in this passage is our responsibility with one another, right? When he also um, have the vision to say that even the sciences, when they start to proclaim certain truths or to say certain things, they would think once or twice to look at it and say, if I say this, this will affect other people. So imagine living in a world that when science, when our co-workers, our workplaces, they were doing things thinking, as Joanna Giangeli reminds us, to do the least that will harm our brothers and sisters, right? It's a different world, but it starts with us. So Erastus here, he gives us an example. So what are these spiritists? Because he also mentions there are spiritists, just like you and I, that have received this information, that have received these teachings, and we go astray. We actually don't do anything to it. We don't multiply it. Not only in the sense of coming to the front and give a talk, but to receive and multiply it with our actions, with our good intentions. He says the following. He proposes a question. If many of those called to Spiritism have gone astray, by what signs do we recognize those who are on the righteous path? This should be us. You will recognize them by the principle of true charity that they profess and practice. Profess and practice. You will recognize them by the number of afflicted to whom they could take consolation. You will recognize them by their love for their neighbor, their selflessness, and their personal disinterestedness. I can't say the word, sorry. Disinterestedness. You will recognize them, finally, by the triumph of their principles, for God wills the triumph of his law. Those who obey his laws are the elect, and he will give them victory. However, he will crush those who falsify the spirit of that law and who make it a stepping stone for satisfying their vanity and ambition. It's all about what we study, preach, but most certainly the quality of our work. It's not about how many times I will do it, but the quality of our work, our intention, our goodwill. So when we were being called to the vine, and many of us have been called for this reincarnatory plan, with this reincarnatory plan, but also every single day when we have to get up and do the work that perhaps we started yesterday, yes, but what we need to start today. And the start today should be, now that we have some of this information with us, should be much different. Should be with our eyes on tomorrow, right? Should be with our eyes not only for how much I will get, but the opportunity that we received for work. The passage that I mentioned here, that the book that we mentioned here by Huberto Rodin, he explained in such a nice way of how much we expect from God, the payments from God, right? But how important it is.
Hello, Tasha. Okay.
Daniel, always with the plan B. Daniel. How much we expect from God, the payments, right? The rewards from God. And we forget that the work in itself, the opportunity in itself, is a great gift that we receive. Let us think of what our situation was before we reincarnated. I am quite sure that many of us wanted to reincarnate. Think about the work that was put forth for us to reincarnate. I am quite sure it was quite a bit, and we do not know the immensity that of what that is. Of course, we have examples by André Luiz and many other authors as well, but we only get a glimpse. Think about putting all of this work together as far as our family members. Some of them, yeah, perhaps it is one or the very few times that we have reincarnated together, but we have also those who incarnated with us that we have a lot of affection towards them, right? Right? Some more than others. Think about putting all these people together that we have encountered in our lives. It's a lot of work. And we come over here with all these different opportunities, the talents that we have received, and we don't put to good use. This is not meant for us to feel bad, but really for us to feel and understand how important this is, how important a parable of the workers are in our lives, right? Hopefully you're getting excited, as I have been excited about this topic as well. To finalize in terms of this passage of the gospel according to Spiritism, the Spirit of truth then comes and says, brothers and sisters, let us work together and combine our efforts. And we'll see this with Emmanuel later on, so that the master may find the work accomplished at his coming. For the master will say to them, come unto me, you who have been good servants, you who have known how to silence your jealousy and discord so that no harm would come to the work. How many, and I'll say this with all respect for the moments that this has happened within Spiritist organizations, how many spiritual organizations we have seen that perhaps people, because they have a vision, they view certain topics or certain things, this and the other person a different way, and they break apart. Some of them don't continue to work. Some of them just disappear from the Spiritist center or from the work that is actually being provided to them. Literally. Now, I don't want to deal with Spiritism anymore because they put the label onto Spiritism, or they put the face of that person that they had that field onto Spiritism. And this is it. The Spirit of truth telling us, look, we need to silence our jealousy. Because this person is this person is that, this person has gained more, this person has a different title in their personal lives, so life is easier for them. All the different things that happen in the Spiritist center. How many times we have seen this happening, right, in the different religions that we've been part of, and we still see it, right? Some priest trying to be more than the Pope. And I'm not judge or anything like that, but respect the order, do your part, right? Some other individuals at work, we also see that they want to be more than the boss. They want to be more than the CEO of the company. Yeah, there are certain things that we can escalate, that we can say, this needs to get better. And that's how we get better, when we come together. But if I don't put my work forth and I just stop to do my work and complain, guess what? Nothing is going to get any better. Quite the opposite. We'll get worse. Because all that we will do is from 8 to 5 is to complain. And we will still want our denarius. Isn't it so? And we complain the whole day. At this moment, God is taking a census of his faithful servants and is taking note of those who only have the appearance of devotion so that they may not usurp the wages of the courageous servants, because it is for those who do not recoil before their task that God will entrust the most difficult positions in the great work of regeneration through Spiritism. And these words will be fulfilled. The first will be last, and the last will be first in the kingdom of heaven. Right? We have the capabilities. We have the talents, and we can go back to the For those who have watched it or not, we have discussed the parable of the talents here. We have the people around us. We have the environment, right, for us to do the best we can. Now, that best, it's up to each one of us. And we can, when we lay our heads on the pillow every night, we can ask ourselves, have I done my best? And if it is your best, guess what? Sleep. If not, sleep, because tomorrow is another day. We can start tomorrow again. Don't let that take your sleep from you. But remember that tomorrow we can do the same thing. The worst thing is for us to, as he's saying here, right, to take the denarius of someone else, or to think that we are equal to those who are doing more work than the others. When we have to take in consideration that this is very fast. What is it now? 85 years now, 80 years, the life expectancy now of an individual in the world. I think it's getting up there, right? And we see some of us being out of the curve, obviously, but it's very fast compared to eternity. It's extremely fast. To finalize, folks, Emmanuel, through the hands of Chico Xavier, in this beautiful book, Our Daily Bread, chapter 29, the Vineyard, he takes a passage of this this parable and he comments on it, and he reminds us of many of us thinking that this is just, planet Earth is just a globe that is like flying through space, right? That there is no order, that things are just happening every single day. And sometimes that's how we feel, because we're so small, we're so materialistic, we cannot see from the outside, right? It's normal. There's nothing wrong with that, but we need to expand ourselves. But when we take in consideration the who God is, what God, I shouldn't even say who God is, that's wrong. What God is, as Spiritism brings to us, right? When we learn that Jesus is the brother, the older brother, the governor of this planet, then we start thinking, wait a minute, there's got to be a reason for me also to be here. There's got to be a reason for each of us to be here. This is not just a ship that is lost at sea. No. There's a lot going on, a lot of work. And then he says the following towards the end. Wherever you are, remember that you are standing in the vineyard of Jesus Christ. Are you besieged by difficulties and misfortune? Work for the common good. Even so, because the Father entrusted each cooperator with the just and convenient material. And we can change the material, but there's also resources, the people that we have, right? The physical body that we have, and everything else. And I will say the work itself, it's so beautiful. Whatever time we were called, right? Some of us were ready a long time ago in the beyond, right? But we had to wait to the right time to come with the right family. Leo, are you kidding me? The right family? What are you talking about? My family is completely whack, right? But guess what? Is what God gave us. And because they came before us, we should be thankful for these individuals. We should be thankful. Whatever they were, if they're not following Spiritism or not, we are here. And we should be thankful for them. In the book Living Spring, entitled, chapter 122, entitled, Let Us Understand One Another, Emmanuel also comes and says, wait a minute, let's work together. Let's understand our capabilities here. It is beautiful for us to think that the lawmakers, they come and make laws, they vote on ideas for us to live a more harmonious life, right? Those who execute as well these laws are very interesting as well, all the higher works. But if it wasn't from the laborer, us, who are exercising on a day-to-day life these laws and doing the things that we have to do, guess what? There's no meaning. And then he says that towards the end something that it really intrigued me when I read. He says, let us reach out to those around us and they will respond with the best they have. The most precious capital of life is that of goodwill. Let us use goodwill, and our lives will be enriched with blessings and joys today and always, wherever we may be. I can have a lot of money, but if I don't have goodwill, what is the money for? I can have a lot of people, good people around me, but if I don't have goodwill with those individuals, there's no reason. I can have a beautiful body, perfect body, whatever we want to call, but if I don't have goodwill to do something useful with that good body, there's no purpose. I can have a beautiful reincarnatory plan ahead of me, but if I don't have a goodwill to put forth, despite the struggles, the difficulties, there's nothing. When we are called to work in the vineyard, if I don't have goodwill, and this is reminding us also to reach out to those around us. Do my part. And those around me hopefully will follow through. Unfortunately, we see a small percentage doing that, right? Even when we put our good intentions towards one another, we don't get the same thing back. But they're watching. The seed is being planted. The seed of goodwill. And if there is anything that we would like to leave with one another tonight, in this idea of being called with to work, to change ourselves, is this idea of goodwill. I don't remember the passage in the book right now. There is a story, I think it's in the book Estante da Vida of Life, or Stories of Life, that Emmanuel, if I'm not mistaken, Humberto de Campos, thank you, Daniel. Humberto de Campos explains of a passage of with Peter, when Jesus asks for Peter to go and pray at someone's house, and he knew that he was going to deal with some very difficult people there, right? The owner of the house was a drunkard, somebody who drank a lot. The wife was obviously going through a tough time. The kids, everybody had their own lives, on their own ways to live, and so he went because the master asked him. And when he got there, what did he get? Exactly what he thought he would get, right? The man almost slapped him, or I think he slapped him in the face or did something. And I would like to bring more clarification in terms of the chapter, and we can post this when we post the video. And dealing with the rest of the family was extremely hard when he got there, and he left. So he left. So he went back to Jesus and said, "You sent me to do this, this, and that." He started complaining exactly and showing exactly what was actually what happened at the house. And Jesus turned to him and said, "All that I asked you to do is to go there and pray. Simple. Go there and pray." It was not to change those individuals, right? But all that I asked you was there to go there and pray. The reason I'm saying this is because sometimes we come and we are presented with the opportunities of work to do something very minimal, to do something very small. But we believe that we have to do something great, something amazing like Chico did, right? But it's just to be there and to be yourself sometimes. We don't have to be anybody different. We don't have to be the workers. We have to be the workers. Put forth the work with goodwill. And guess what? Hopefully that will have a great result, because the work is not ours. The work, the vineyard, is not ours. If we remember that, that is half of the battle completed, right? Because sometimes we take it to heart and we think that and that is a good thing, because sometimes we think we try to own the work, right? And we think that the environment is mine and I can change it. No. Jesus himself did a lot of work, but he didn't change everybody yet. Hopefully one day. And that day will only happen if we work together. So hopefully we have a better understanding of what the parable is, and who are the workers, And who is the landowner? Who is God in our lives? What kind of relationship we have with God? In the idea of spiritism, in the idea of what work is also in our lives. We would like to open for questions, comments that you may have.
Thank you, Leo. We do have a comment online, but before the comment, a comment from Wendell, I just wanted to ask, I mean, at first, when we see this parable, the first glance, we think that there is no meritocracy, right? If we look at from our perspective of the parable. So when you did your research to, let me change here. About the interpretation of this parable, and call my attention that Kardec didn't make any comment in the Gospel according to Spiritism, only print the Spirit's message, right? Don't you think that if we look at this parable for just one lifetime would be not fair, but the interpretation of this parent is for our life as a whole, like with many reincarnations. So did you find any explanation, any correlation with this parable and the doctrine of reincarnation?
Yeah, it's the Spiritist teachings is around reincarnation. So it has to do everything with reincarnation. Yes, one may get a glimpse of how good the Father is because he rewarded everybody the same. Those who worked a little more than, a little less than the others. When we say a little less, now we understand that perhaps there's also the consideration in terms of that they worked very hard for those 3 hours compared to the 8 hours that was worked from the first workers, right? We can take that in consideration without thinking, bringing to the equation the aspect of reincarnation. That is true. But it's still very hard, right? That's when we look at it as like, what kind of impartial God is this? So why will I do the hard work of 8 hours when I can only, work 3 hours and I'll get the same, right? That crosses our mind, and it's okay. But that is why I am super thankful, and we should be too, that we have Spiritism to bring this idea of reincarnation. When the spirits come with the Spiritist teaching saying, spread the word, we're talking about reincarnation. Because without which, yes, Daniel, we have to acknowledge also a God that is difficult. Now, we can always bring also to the discussion, on how God was seen at the time, right? A demanding, I'm going to say, industrious God as well, right? That say, go and work, I'll pay you this, right? You accepted this, right? But we have a different relationship with God right now. And I think that is one of the beauties that we have accomplished, and not only for those of us who are Spiritists, but also other religions, to look at God in a different way, right? In a way that we can I'll take a step back. Christianity in itself, right, brought to us what? A Father, right? Jesus brought us, if there is one thing that is so uplifting and so freeing, is the idea that we have, that we learn with Jesus. No one else before him said, our Father, right? It was this very demanding and authoritarian, right? God, right? Now we're saying Father, and we have these conversations. Why did Daniel get a denarius when he only worked 3 hours? Well, perhaps he was ready. Perhaps he's the plan B of the SSB, right? That has he's ready to change the battery, right? I'm just giving an example so we understand, right? So who are we to look at it with all these teachings and question now? And it was okay to question before too, right? We didn't have those teachings. And I'll emphasize once more, if we are Spiritists today, if we're freely talking about spirituality today, We're not hiding. We're in public. We're bringing this to the world, right? Online. It's because of the work that we have done and many of us have done in the past. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So reincarnation should be the basis of this. Perhaps we started this work long ago. If we take one of the incarnations, I forget, of what's his name? John Huss was Kardec. And what did John Huss do? He was one of those who came to transform the church. And some of the ideas of John Huss of the time had nothing to do with Spiritism, right? But he was one sent by God to reincarnate and say, go and prepare the field. There will be a lot of backslashing at you, right? Think about it. A spirit, knowing that they're reincarnating into a field that they have to change something that was so big on planet Earth. And that was before Martin Luther. That was way before. So if we have this today, guess what? They did a lot of work. And so did we. I like to say that as well. But we can do more. Hopefully that helps, Daniel.
I want to say what a great talk, Leo. It's a topic that is very, very important, I think. As you're reading through the parable and the timing and the type of interaction with the other works, what came to my mind. I don't know what's the difference on the different versions of the parable in other books, but what caught my attention this time, reading through this, is that with the first group, he mentioned how much he would pay. So it was like an agreement. You're going to do this, I'm going to pay you this much. Okay, let's go. With the other ones, he simply says, I'll pay what is right. And then with the other ones, it doesn't even look like he mentioned how much they were going to get. So to me, that part caught a little bit of more attention this time, because to me, it's almost, you always, like, you know what you're going to do, you're going to get what we agreed. If you do with goodwill, I'm telling you, go do this, trust me, I'll pay you what is right. You might even get more than what you were thinking you would at first. It's almost like that's a little bit of new to me. I never read this and thinking this way. So I'll say thank you for letting us digest all of this and all the other books and parts and comments that you made. So thank you. And just your thoughts on this, if you see that way as well.
It is very true. Have you ever bribed a child? Perhaps we have. But there are children that you say, go do this, and then in turn, I'll give you this. But there are also children that, they just tell them, go get this done, and they'll get it done. How many times our parents have asked us, to do something, and we didn't get it done? But if there was, right, what is in it for me, right? And we do the same thing in our lives. What is in for me? If I accomplish this, what will be the result, right? We think that way. We live that way. We are so materialistic that we have to have that reward, right? Forgetting that the work in itself is the reward. Telling the kids to make their bedroom, right? What reason? Tell me the reason why. I'm not getting anything out of it. Yes, you do. Yes, you will. Your environment will be cleaner. Your life will run much better if you don't, make that. Your day will be just lovely because you will connect with something that you're working, right? You're training your brain. You're training your heart that you need a neat life, right? And everything, hopefully, throughout your day will correspond to the same thing. That's why there are studies that if you do your workout in the morning, guess what? Later on throughout the day, you will think twice before you put something that is not good for in your body, right? To your body. You will eat something more healthy food, because you already put the work. So why am I going to go ahead and destroy what I just did? Yes, there are those as well that think, I already did my workout. I can eat this junk food right now. But reality is, the study says that if you do your workout in the morning, right, without thinking the rewards, you will follow through. So the analogy that we would use, and I'm glad that you brought this, is that the bribing kid, right? Let us think of God now saying, I will pay you this, go and do this, right? If you reincarnate again, guess what? You will wash some of the sins that you actually have committed in the past, right? I'm using just words here. And there are those that go and reincarnate. Imagine God or Jesus asking Leo to reincarnate versus São Francis of Assisi. I heard something really interesting the other day. This guy was making this analogy of, if we lose $10,000 right now, right on the street, we're going to be like, oh gosh, $10,000, right? We'll be thinking for the rest of our lives. If Chico were to lose $10,000, he would be like, okay, hopefully the person who finds it needs it, and life will go on, because their perspective about life, the environment, is completely different than ours. So my perspective about reincarnation is completely different from these higher minds that are reincarnating. So maybe he had to bribe me, right? You will receive a tall body. And I was like, wow, I'm going to be tall. Without waging the consequences when I have to fly, guess what? I feel like a sardine, right? Right? But that was the bribing. Leo, you will be tall. Great. Okay. Right? But for other ones, they don't care whatever body they will receive or not. So that is a great point. And it has to do with this idea of we want to receive, we want to see the results before we even earned the results. Paula.
Okay, hi. You got a tall body, but you also wound up at the end of the alphabet.
Right.
Thank you for all your hard work in presenting it. It was very clear and helpful. My takeaway is going to be silence your jealousies. As I was listening to this parable, it reminded me of the parable of the prodigal son. Because on the surface, it doesn't look fair in both parables. So then I'm thinking there's a human level and there's a divine level. The human level does the judging, gets jealous, says it's not fair. The divine level, which we're all evolving into, accepts, says there's much more to this story than I'll ever know, and pays more attention to our internal work than the external. I'm not saying you don't stop working hard in whatever you're doing, but this internal work to me seems to be the field we're living in. Thanks.
I am so grateful to hear what you just said, because that's exactly one of the points that Huberto Rodin actually brings from in his book, right? Is this idea that I not only we're giving the opportunity to work, but that we expect something back, right? The bargaining with God, the results that we are waiting to receive, and it's the work in itself is the opportunity, is what we're looking for. So thank you for that. Yes, and the other comment at the beginning of your comment as well is how these teachings, they're interconnected, right? And yes, the prodigal son, it is a great example of it. The son that was working there the whole time, like, look, why are you doing this for him? He left. Who are you to complain? The father was still the owner of the property, right? You and him and it, had the opportunity to continue to work, to continue to be the son, but he dropped everything at the moment that he went and complained. He could have been the older brother or the example of the family had he not said anything. But he showed himself when he started complaining. When he started bargaining with the father And the father simply comes to him and say, you always have all this. It's yours too. What are you talking about? Right? So we see the essence of the individual. We see the essence of us when we also allow ourselves to be that way. Antonia, please. Is it on?
Oh, okay. What I could understand also, you could translate in many ways this parable, but think about the people that reincarnate to do work. They accept to do work, they do the work all their lives for a certain amount or certain, price or something. And the other ones who is called late, and they take the chance and they know their journey is going to be short, but they take that opportunity and do something really good, and the promises to them for these ones is what was right. It was not a denarius. It was God, was giving him, the landlord said, well, I'm going to give you what's right. So they come in late, they accepted the job, they do it for a short time, but they do a great job. And then think about some, even spiritist or somebody that brings Jesus' words to the planet, and they live a short life, but they did great things. They came in late, they didn't have all the opportunity to do all their lives, but they came in for a short period of time and they did a great job. They might not even come back, right?
It is a good point. It is true. Yes, I mean there are many minds that are they reincarnate on planet Earth to do the work that they were supposed to do in a very short time, and they do wonders, right? That is not for us to say that our work, and Emmanuel reminds this in the last two messages on the last message that I brought from the book Living Spring. It's not for us to say who's doing this, A or B or C, or more or less, but for us to do our part. Come together. As Paula reminded us, be selfless, right? Just try to bring down the inner voice that sometimes tries to compete, right? And to show off or to be something that we're not. Because the moment that I start thinking that I have to be like this or that person, I have to do more than the other individual or individuals, guess what? It's time that I'm putting aside or wasting, not doing my work. Instead of complain, let's use the time to do something useful. So it is true, yes. Daniel, I think we have Wendell with a comment.
Just to finalize, Leo, I'm just going to post the comment from Endo, and you can read over there.
Hello, Wendell. And he says, this parable makes me think of how humans' idea of fairness is based on our own interests and how we still haven't understood Jesus' teachings about pure love. Thanks, Leo, for such a great reflection. That is true, yes. In taking consideration that we have the reason we are the result, this moment is a result of what we have done, of what we have lived, of what we have believed, our interactions with one another. Guess what? God's grace is great. It's amazing because it just by our thoughts, our feelings, what goes through our minds, and it's for each one of us to judge, right? The moments that are the indignation goes up, the moments that we see certain things and we rebel, the tough moments of our lives that we despair and have no faith whatsoever. If we were to think about it, isn't it God great? Because here we are. Here's another opportunity, and another opportunity, and another opportunity to come in contact with people that for much less, they are doing greater things than we are. They're accepting life in such a way that for us, it's like, I would never be able to bear such a thing, right? A mother that bears a difficulty with their kids, right? Perhaps not have enough to give it to their kids, right? Other circles of life, different countries of the world. When we look at it, it's like, my gosh, these people don't even have running water, right? And here we are. And we still complain. And we still, and again, please, let's not finish this thinking that it's for us to feel down, but to really embrace what we have. In the difficult moments that we have, we got to think and remind ourselves and remind one another. We are the workers. Leo didn't say it. Nobody else is saying. The Spirit told us we are the workers of the last hour. Some of us started earlier. Some of us started a little bit later, but we're all workers. If we put ourselves to be. There's no mission until we decide that this is a mission for me to change what's within me. Because the rest, it's up to Christ, the governor of the planet Earth. Thank you. We'll stop right here. And hopefully this will be a reflection for us to continue on in our lives, in our circles of friends. And let us pray together so we can give a continuation to this evening and to the work of passes. We'll ask Daniel to put the music and so we can pray. Let us find a comfortable position to internalize these teachings and ask our dear Creator to guide us, that through our sleep we can embrace the topic and be better workers. Wishing for ourselves to be the worker, whether we have started earlier or later. Let us look at the work as the opportunity, as the payment, the gratification that we have been looking for quite some time. We give thanks to our dear Creator to guide us all throughout this talk, throughout this moment. We give thanks for all that we have had thus far, the workers of the first hours who came before us, those who came in between, and us that are here now, doing our best to grow spiritually, mentally, towards progress. Dear Mother, Father God, bless those brothers and sisters who will be watching us later on, this talk, connecting with us. But most importantly, bless the spirits who are connected with us right now. Remind them that they are also workers, and we can work together as we put our differences aside, as we ask permission to say, I'm sorry for what we have done, for the moments that we have erred because of our jealousy, because of our ill intentions. And we hope that through the vineyard of our Master Jesus, we can work together again. We can allow ourselves to grow and intensify the work, not ourselves. To exalt the effort, not ourselves. This way, may your blessings be with us now and ever, and so be it.